First of all, a deferred sales trust is not a 1031 exchange, is the biggest thing to understand, but it is a tax deferral strategy that allows you to sell any asset of any kind and defer capital gains tax like a 1031 exchange. Okay, very similar.
Hello, everybody. It's Jake Senzana, host of the Wheelbarrow Props Podcast here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, chef, father, six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy. Gino Barber. Gino, how's it going?
Jake, it's been a great week. Tiring.
Tell me about it. What's going on?
Moved into the new Jake and Gino office. That's always a treat. I'm not the mover, bro. Get that little Ryder truck going out. The missus was driving it. Freaking loved it, dude. Let her drive it. I packed it up, ready to go. My 21-year-old daughter graduated college this weekend, so that was another treat for me. It was awesome. Exciting weekend. Tiring. Ready to make it happen.
And the family man doesn't even mention that we just closed on an 85 unit that borders an Amazon complex. But hey, that's okay. He's living the dream. We got a great guest today. Today's guest is Brett Swarts, founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions and the host of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. He is an entrepreneur, commercial real estate investor, and considered one of the most well-rounded capital gains tax deferral experts on the West Coast. We got to go national with this thing. All right, we're going big. He's got a great background here. So Brett is an active commercial real estate broker and investor with over $190 million in closed commercial real estate brokerage and deferred sales trust transaction. Each year, he equips hundreds of business professionals with deferred sales trust tool to help their high net worth clients solve capital gains tax deferral limitations. So without further ado, Brett, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jake and Gino, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Okay. I'm an infant with this stuff, okay? I know I don't want to pay capital gains tax. Tell me what a deferred sales trust is and how the hell you ended up here. I've never even heard of these things.
Yes, great question. First of all, a deferred sales trust is not a 1031 exchange, is the biggest thing to understand, but it is a tax deferral strategy that allows you to sell any asset of any kind and defer capital gains tax like a 1031 exchange. Okay, very similar, like a 401k, like an IRA. But at the foundation of it, it's based upon a tax code known as IRC 453. You, Jake and Gino, and your listeners might know it as a seller carryback, right? Where a seller can carry paper for a buyer. And when they do that, they are in a deferral state for whatever amount they haven't received in what's called actual or constructive receipt. So short story is it's a seller carryback. Now, how you apply that and how you use it is where the secret sauce comes in.
So before we get into the secret sauce and everything, number one, I want to congratulate Jake on reading that bio. I don't think he's read a bio that long ever. So, dude, I mean, 3 paragraphs. I'm really proud of you, bro. You did a great job. You nailed it, slowed it down, the inflection points. Number 2, Brett, let's go back to your background. How did you get?
I know, that's what I want to know. Where did this come from, man?
Got it. Yeah, let me start there. The origin story, right? So, I grew up in the Bay Area with my dad and fell in love with real estate at a young age, building custom homes and room additions. I call this the MC Hammer days. My brother and I would, driving the Bobcat. We would be hammering nails, putting up drywall, seeing him buy rentals, buy land. And this is the early 80s, okay? And it was the Silicon Valley, a lot of things that were going on there. And so fell in love with real estate, but also learned the value of hard work, learned the value of being an entrepreneur, and went and wanted to be in real estate of some kind as I got older. So I played some sports in college, played basketball in college, and then I had an opportunity to take an internship at a company called Marcus and Millichap, and that's where my kind of the intellectual, financial, underwriting education began. And so I got to learn from some of the best in the business on how to buy real estate, how to reposition real estate, how to broker real estate, how to underwrite deals. And in particular, it was multifamily, but it wasn't always easy, right? So I came from a background of a very successful father and also a very dedicated mom. But the challenge was they were divorced when I was young, and I went from seeing a lot of wealth to being kind of on the other side of wealth, because 90% of the time I was with my mom and about 10% of the time I was with my dad. And with the bad divorce, and at that time, let's just say, the child support wasn't paid the way it should have been paid. But it taught me the value of hard work and perseverance. So I'm at Marcus and Millichap. I know I want to succeed, right? I don't want any financial challenges coming between my family. I want to have a lot of margin. I knew that was a big thing for my life and something I valued. And so I started to get some momentum. And this is 2006, by the way, and things are going rocking and rolling, right? People are 1031 exchanging. People are buying deals. People are making a lot of money. But guess what? Something happened in '08. So I went from making a little bit of money in brokerage, just getting my business going, to overnight, literally like just to zero. And along with a lot of other brokers in that office. And so I did what every good entrepreneur does. You know, you get a side job or a side hustle to keep the lights on.
Uber?
And so when my wife and I were, very, very low income, living with my brother in his condo, I was working side and nights and weekends just to support her and the baby, our first baby daughter, at home. And so I got the job at Cheesecake Factory, and the guy looks at me and goes like, what are you doing? Like, I mean, why are you here? And I said, I'll tell you why I'm here. I love real estate, and it pays zero unless I close a deal. He goes, well, what if you close a deal tomorrow? Are you just going to walk out and, 50 grand after I do all this training for you? I said, I will not. And he says, why? I go, I got a baby at home, and I love the real estate game, and I'm not leaving that. He said, okay, well, tell you what, if you give me a 2-year commitment, you can stay here, and you can work nights and weekends. I said, great. So by day, I would make cold calls, negotiate with banks. See, when I was going through this financial struggle, so was my clients. See, some of my clients had overpaid and take on too much debt. They didn't have enough liquidity or diversification. And they were feeling trapped with the banks in a lot of ways. And so by day, I'd try to negotiate with them, try to reposition their properties. And by night, I'd sell cheesecake. And fast forward, I did that for 2 years. But during that time period, my manager brought in a gentleman to talk about the Deferred Sales Trust. And this is when everything changed for me, and that all of a sudden there was a new way to do something that we thought we had figured it out. We thought the 1031 was the end-all be-all. We thought we were the experts in all of these things of commercial real estate and tax deferral. But all of a sudden he said, look, for all of that pain, all of that struggle, they could have avoided that if they would have known about this. And so like most people, we thought it was too good to be true, but I was very hungry and very open to just something that would work. So what did I do? I started to apply to the Deferred Sales Trust. I started to talk about it. I started to get in front of clients and talk about what happened and how we could avoid potentially happening what happened before. So my business started to grow. And fast forward 5 kids later here in Roseville, California.
I was competing with Gino now. One more and you're in GDAD territory. So
I keep telling them to you gotta push it over. But Jake, before you ask the question, I want to know this serious question. Did you guys put any gold fixtures in back in the 80s, just like MC Hammer did, or you guys just go simple Kohler?
I'm not sure I follow.
So MC Hammer back in the 80s, millions and millions of dollars. He had gold fixtures, toilets, and everything was gold. And he ended up losing his house, and the rich to fame. And poor MC Hammer. I love MC Hammer. You see how he looks now? He looks like an old dude.
He's smarter than this. Like he would have went brass. He would have got the look, but not really spent the gold. So So my question is, if capital gains goes close to 40%, what happens to your business?
Even before this, it already was it's booming. Over $2 billion. Literally.
He's like, I just hired 20 reps.
So Biden, we've been tracking that for a while, and let's just see if he actually gets that passed. What you're referring to is going from 20 to basically 40% federal, right? Which is just kind of staggering to think about. And then also the potential of the elimination of the 1031 exchange if you make a certain amount, just about $1 million a year.
It's all looking right to you, man. It's all funneling right your way
stepped up basis, and even beyond. So I want to take you guys even back before this. We call this the perfect storm, okay? And according to the American Bankers Association, there's about $17 to $20 trillion that's going to pass from one generation to the next in the next 20 years. And this is our parents, guys. These are the baby boomers, right, who are looking to retire from the toilets, trash, and liability. In fact, the same study found that there's about 77 million baby boomers in the U.S. alone, and every day about 10,000 are turning 65. And 50% of their net worth is tied into high-end primary homes, investment real estate, commercial real estate, and private equity businesses, right? And what are they faced with? They're faced with 30 to 50%, now potentially 50 to 70% in capital gains tax and depreciation recapture when they go to sell these assets. And they don't know how to get out of the toilets, trash liability, to diversify, get out of the debt without getting hammered by the tax. And so that's the big problem. So this has already been happening before this, before Biden came in and before the proposals. And we've been busy for over 25 years now. I learned about 11 years. I say we at my business partners. I'm just the trustee. I'm like the nurse. I take your pulse and I check you in for surgery, to the tax attorneys who are brilliant in what they do. But collectively, we help to close the transaction. So it's already been happening. And yes, it throws fuel on the fire there, Jake.
So Brett, why is it different than a 1031? And what pitfalls do you typically see with a 1031?
Absolutely. I'm going to give you an analogy to help you understand this, okay? So we don't get too much into technobabble. So basically, I want you to think about the 1031 exchange like the Blockbuster way of doing things. And so Jake and Gino, do you remember going to Blockbuster on a Friday night? You're excited to rent that movie, and you're about
I even
to
bought
get that
posters
movie.
there. I bought wooden posters there back in the day and put them on my wall. I loved it.
We'd hang out at the local Taco Bell, get our tacos, go get our movie right on a Friday night. That was cool.
Antonello's Pizza and Fishkill, baby. Hit it up.
That was yours? Yeah, that was your restaurant. That's cool. So, but remember, if you didn't get that movie because someone steps right in front of you and takes that movie, right? So you got to settle for another movie. But then even if you got that movie, you got to return it within 3 days, and then you gotta pay that fine, that penalty, and basically it's a restrictive way of doing things. If you live in a cold environment, like I don't know, some parts of Tennessee or some parts of New York, you have to drive your car. Well, that's Blockbuster, right? Something happened. There was a Netflix that came in, right? And Netflix is seamless. There's no time pressure. There's some ongoing fees, sure, but it's a new way of doing things. And once you understand that, I believe for most cases, unless you can find a value add forced appreciation deal, there's no reason to ever use Blockbuster ever again. Okay, so what is a 1031? First of all, you got 45 days to identify and 180 days to close. We call that the shotgun wedding. Right. And back in the crash, what we found was people were overpaying in 04, 05, 06. And they knew they were, but they felt they had no other solution but the Blockbuster 1031. And so they're taking on equal or greater value, which is typically equal or greater debt. They're not having diversification, but they feel like they have to buy this deal. And so we actually just did a recent deal. We saved a failed 1031 exchange. This gentleman was selling 128 units in Georgia. Okay. He's owned properties for 30 years. He's multifamily value add guy. And for the first time, he's looking around. He's out of California and he's buying out of state. North Carolina, he's looking at deals at 4.5 caps. Deals that have been squeezed of the value add, right? The rents are already sky high. And he's going, why am I buying this? I've seen this story before. And then COVID-19 hit and he went, I'm extra cautious now. So he goes, instead of replacing $4.5 million of debt, buying a property at 8 or 9 or 10 million bucks, and overpaying because I don't like these deals on the intrinsic value of the cash flow per se. How about I do a deferred sales trust? So he did. So he got out of all of his debt. He parked $3 million into the deferred sales trust, and he's also in his 60s too, guys. He's like, I've made my wealth. I don't necessarily need to be so active in this. I like to put it with some other operators that have proven track records. So what did he do? He's diversified those funds into multifamily value add funds and into some single deals where he's passive, not using a 1031 exchange. And so it solved a number of things for him, right? Retirement partially, diversification, being out of debt, and it allows him to do something that he wanted to do for a while, which is a legacy play. He wants to and bought a big property in Montana, and his passion is to help build corporate leaders with giving back and create a retreat for them. So that's his passion legacy project, rather than being so active on the real estate side, all while being able to defer about $1.1 million of tax. And so what we like to say is the Deferred Sales Trust is the Netflix because it provides transformational wealth and exit planning versus the old Blockbuster, which had forced him to overpay for a property, maintain activity, right? Take on all that debt and be in a position where he doesn't want to be in, right? So the transformation can be different, but the key here is what does the client want? And the timing piece with the Deferred Sales Trust is the second thing. We don't have to buy back into properties at any time. In fact, one of the best deals is a deal for a guy in Minnesota. He sold a $20 million asset in 2006, and he played the Monday morning quarterback, right? He dropped back and he played it perfect. He sold at the peak, and he parked the funds in the Deferred Sales Trust. Now, this guy hates the stock market. He's a commercial real estate guy, but he said, I'm not going to 1031 and overpay. I'm going to take a chance on this Deferred Sales Trust. Parks the funds there. Okay, puts it into conservative stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, which is another thing the Deferred Sales Trust can do. You don't have to put it into light kind of real estate. And he sat there safe. 5 years later, the bank calls him up and says, hey, would you like to buy the property back that we just foreclosed on? And he goes, well, maybe. What's the price? And they said, well, 60 cents on the dollar. He goes, that sounds like a pretty good deal. So he reallocated the funds into an LLC, And then he purchased it all tax deferred at 60 cents on the dollar, right? So he did what? He sold high and he bought low, which is what our parents taught us to do. They didn't teach us to sell high and buy higher 180 days later. So once you understand how to do this and that it works, and there's been thousands of closes, billions under management, again, you're probably never going to go back to Blockbuster ever again.
So, Brett, you may not be able to answer this question, but to me, it seems like it's almost like the self-directed IRAs of the world. Not many people know about them. Everyone should. Why don't more people know about the Deferred Sales Trust?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're kind of like a 1031. We're kind of like a self-directed IRA. We're kind of like a 401k. The reason is because it takes a group of professionals who to actually execute this. It's not like just forming an LLC, okay? And when I first started 11 years ago, I didn't know a thing, right? But after 10,000 hours with the tax attorneys, going through the CPAs, all of the overcoming all the false beliefs of, is this thing legal? It's too good to be true. It's that belief part, and it's actually seeing the deals close that creates the momentum for people to do things, right? Until they have a guide or a coach, and it's not unlike probably what you guys do for people buying their first multifamily property, right? Or their first 100 units or their first syndication, right? It's too good to be true, or I can't do it until somebody does it. And so the answer is A, it's proprietary, to also answer your question, right? There's literally one law firm in the entire United States that were my business partners that do this. There's just a handful of individuals like myself who are forming the trusteeships. And the last thing is we have financial advisors, thousands now across the nation, that also offer it for their clients. But the best way to really answer that question is by telling you another story of a gentleman who worked for PIMCO. And this gentleman, if you heard of a guy named Bill Gross, but Bill Gross is one of the most respected. He's kind of like a Warren Buffett for the financial advisor world. He's one of the most respected guys, and he had 5 guys that took PIMCO about 20 years ago from about 80 billion to 1.2 trillion, and then they all retired, got a big payday. Well, 4 of the 5 got bored, and a gentleman in particular named David Young got bored, and they formed a group called Untitled Capital, and realized these guys have been in the business for 30 years. They get approached with stuff all the time, and especially tax strategies, and they just say no to everything. Well, about 2.5 years ago, they get approached with the Deferred Sales Trust, and they had the exact same question. Why doesn't everyone know about this? Why isn't everyone doing this? Seems too good to be true. But they did their due diligence, and they just didn't do it for a month or two. They did a full 2-year due diligence. And they brought their legal team, they brought all of their folks, and sat down with the tax attorney, laid it all out for 2 days on a table. And after that 2 days, they walked out with 2 conclusions. First thing is this, and which is what everyone, I think, has come to realize once they meet with my business partner, that A, that's the smartest guy we've ever met, and 2, we're all in. Not only is it legal, but we are willing to put our names on this, and they became a part of the inner circle. They are the advisory team. So the simple question is this: if it's good enough for David Young, 30 years in the business, his entire legal team, is it good enough for you? And sometimes the answer might be no, because some folks say, I need to have my trusted general, CPA say yes, but he's just a general practitioner. He's not a brain surgeon, deferred sales, trust, capital gains tax expert. And that's really the rub there. It's that emotional thing of getting over, I don't know, because I've never had a friend do it, or my trusted advisor doesn't know about it. However, we will do no-cost due diligence, and we'll help train and coach those CPAs once they sign the NDAs. And oftentimes they end up joining us, Gino.
Love that. Let's go into the pros and the cons. Give me the pros of it, and then give me the cons of it.
Yeah, so the number one pro is to sell high, buy low, right? The ability to sell high and then diversify and buy low when it makes sense for you, right? You no longer have to equal greater value. The second thing would be a new depreciation schedule, right? Realize that depreciation is one of the number one reasons to own cash flow producing real estate, because it offsets the income that's coming in, right? That is one of the unique parts about real estate. Well, guess what? If you've owned multifamily for 27.5 years or commercial for 39, your depreciation schedule goes to 0, and you lose one of the biggest benefits. Well, in a 1031 exchange, if you exchange, guess what? It's Blockbuster. Your old depreciation schedule travels. Not so with the Deferred Sales Trust. Remember that deal in Minnesota? Well, he bought back that property. He got a brand new depreciation schedule. Why? Because he used IRC 453, which is an installment sale, right? And he partnered with the trust to buy it back, which is a very important way of doing it. He got a brand new depreciation schedule. So that's very powerful. So that can really save you there. The third one would be the ability to move your funds outside of your taxable estate. So one of the things that most folks in commercial real estate we've been taught is 1031 and swap into your drop and then get the stepped up basis. Okay, by the way, Biden is talking about taking that away. We'll see what happens. Hopefully he doesn't. But if that happens, we're losing one of the number one benefits. But the other part of that has to do with estate tax, guys. Estate tax right now is, if you're married, 22 million is exempt, 12 million single, but anything above and beyond that, you're hit with a 40% death tax. So the intent is to get it out of your taxable estate. The challenge is the 1031 nor the stepped up basis doesn't apply to estate tax. So I'll give you an example. We're working with a client right now. He's worth about $52 million, and he's lived in Texas, and he's learning about the Deferred Sales Trust. He owns mobile home parks, multifamily. And his biggest challenge is, Brett, I need to get this outside my taxable estate. I don't want to give it all away to charity. Can the Deferred Sales Trust move it outside my taxable estate? And the answer is yes. And so we just closed another deal in Colorado. It was a $25 million client, and they had a $5 million multifamily property they were selling, and they had all 25 inside their taxable estate. They sold, moved it outside their taxable estate. So that's going to save them 40% for their heirs. Okay, has nothing to do with the stepped up basis, nothing to do with capital gains taxes. So just you got to do their math. You have to underwrite your exit strategy, right? And the way I'm coming out with the book soon, and I think we're going to call it tax flow quadrant. It's no longer about managing your cash flow. It's managing your tax flow and how and when you're going to pay tax. And when you look at these things and understand that tax is your biggest expense, and the biggest root of that will be ripping out that estate tax if you're worth ultra high net worth. Well, you can defer that and move it out, and you can move it outside your taxable estate. And the Deferred Sales Trust, again, is transformational.
Who shouldn't be using this? Anybody who shouldn't be using it?
Yeah, so I guess on the cons or not so much. The first thing is you got to get used to me as the trustee, right? And now I'm a third party, unrelated trustee. The biggest thing is, who is this guy? Can he take my money? First of all, funds never move without your signature. You have 24/7 access to view the funds. So if you're under a quick time crunch, right? We try to educate and get the content out and get to know us and our partners and everyone else. That can be challenging for people to get overcome. Like, I'm closing in a week, and oh my gosh, it's my biggest deal I've ever done, and now you're telling me something new. So it's not that they shouldn't be using it, Gino. It's that it can be challenging if you're not taking action to make a plan today. The second thing would be your deal's too small. So $1 million net proceeds and $1 million gain is our minimum. Why? Because the pain has to be big enough on the liability side. Remember, I said it's 30 to 50% depending on the deal. Now, we're doing a cryptocurrency case right now for a gentleman. It's a $12 million cryptocurrency Ethereum that he bought for $100,000. And he's going to sell, defer the tax of $5 million and move it into cash flow producing real estate. And for him, it was like a no-brainer because the money's out in outer space, right? As far as he knows. Whereas if you're in real estate and again, you're active and you're finding deals, then just do a 1031. It is simpler, right? And it is more cost effective. There's not ongoing fees. There's ongoing fees with us. We can talk about that as well. And if you're close to your health concern is close to, hey, I could be passing away soon. Well, maintain that stepped up basis, right? And get your kids to walk away capital gains tax free. However, just be very cautious. We don't know that's going to be there for sure, right? So we always say, don't make decisions based upon what can potentially be changed.
I love that. Give me the top few questions you can ask of every tax deferral strategy. What are you looking for when you're trying to create that tax deferral strategy?
Great question. So, and what it's important to understand is when you get approached with anybody like me, Jake, Gino, your CPA, anybody who's telling you about a brand new or something you never heard of before, you want to ask these 7 questions about, okay? The first question is, well, what's the tax code, right? Well, what is this even based upon, right? And how long has this been around? Now, the tax code here is IRC 453. It's 1920s tax law. You know it. Your CPA knows it. The next important question is, well, how long have you been doing this form of this tax code? The answer here is 25 years of the Deferred Sales Trust. The next one is, well, how many of these have actually closed? Thousands of closes. How much under management? Billions under management. Next most important question is, well, how many of these have been audited by the IRS? Right? I want to make sure I'm not getting myself in hot water. The answer is about 15. The largest one being a $125 million deal. That was a California property. It was an audit. Now, what was the outcome of that audit? Those audits, the outcome was no change, 100% successful, which is actually remarkable if you think about it, right? If you, me, or Gino, or you, me, Jake, or Gino, we get an audit on our business tax returns, the odds of the IRS not finding one single change is very, very low. It could be a receipt, it could be something, right? On all of these audits, not one single issue. They've also had 3 of the 15 were formal audits, where they're called promoter audits, where they're looking for really, they say, bring the whole thing to us. We want to see it all. And those are all no change audits. So you want to make sure that the track record of the tax professional also has had their actual clients under those audits, right? You don't want to go under gun or under surgery with somebody who's had either patients go to jail or patients die on the operating table. So the track record with the Deferred Sales Trust is batting 1,000. It's perfect. They also have a private letter ruling that was approved for form and substance. So these are all the due diligence things you should be asking. And if those are falling apart or those things aren't holding up, then you want to be very cautious not to use that tax deferral strategy.
This is the last long answer question. I think it may take a couple minutes to build it up, but I want people to really start thinking long term. How do they start building a tax deferral wealth plan? How do you start? This sounds overwhelming because you really have that. We have the 100-year REI mindset where you're really thinking really long into the future and creating that generational wealth. So where do they start with their wealth plan?
Yeah, so the first thing is just clarifying your vision, right? Like, why are you building wealth and what is it for? How are you going to impact other people's lives and your family's lives and your grandkids' lives? And what does that look like? And how are you going to achieve that? You know, we get so caught, and I'm a part of that, right? In the day-to-day of buying deals, operating deals, funding deals, financing deals. And that sometimes we got to take that macro vision to really understand, start with the end in mind, right? Stephen Covey, and then work your way back to what's the best tool to help you get there. So the first thing is clarifying your vision, clarifying your why, and then reverse engineering to what gets you back there well. And I like to say it's just draw a line down a piece of paper, right? And ask yourself, what are the things that are important to you? And do you want to buy at any time? Or do you want to be forced to buy in 45 days? By the way, the 1031 exchange only works for investment property. Okay. Realize that the Deferred Sales Trust works for primary homes. We just did an $8.3 million deal in Palo Alto. It can save a failed 1031 exchange without having to identify any of the properties as the Deferred Sales Trust. It works for cryptocurrency. It works for business sales, right? It works for artwork and collectibles. So first of all, the 1031 might even be an option, right? And by the way, I love the 1031 when it makes sense, when it's a buyer's market. So clarifying your vision and then clarifying which tool gets you to where you need to go. And then once you have that, then it's working with professionals to help you get there. And that's what we want to be for folks who are listening to this, right? We love the commercial real estate, value add, cash flow, mobile home park, multifamily community. That's our niche. That's our focus. And we want to help build a dream team around you as your capital gains tax deferral expert to help you make great decisions, right? And that I would say is probably the best way to build that wealth plan, Gino.
All right, gang, let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsor.
Are you looking for ways to improve your life?
Here at Jake and Gino, our mission is to empower students through financial education and the vehicle of multifamily investing.
Yes, Jake. We agree that a person with financial intelligence can change the world for the better.
We've created our proprietary 3-step framework, buy right, manage right, and finance right, that we teach to our community. This framework, along with education, our one-on-one mentorship, on-site boot camps, and the amazing community has propelled our students to massive success.
We've all been there. We've had so many students that have been able to shift their mindset, overcome limiting beliefs, and set a clear path to achieve their goals. Whether you're currently fixing and flipping, wholesaling, or buying single-family rentals, and you know that multifamily investing is the right vehicle for you, I encourage you to visit jakeandgino.com/apply to schedule your complimentary consultation with our team. And I want to let you know this isn't a high pressure sales call. It's really just a discovery call to get to know each other better and see if we're a good fit for working together. And if for any reason we're not a good fit, our team has tons of resources we will share with you to help you along your journey.
If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels, go to jakeandgino.com/apply and schedule your call now. All right, we're back, and I'm going in the weeds right now. I'm just saying, F it, we're going in the weeds. Here we go, cannonball. All right, I just sold the property, okay? Just sold that sucker, put it into a deferred sales trust, okay? We're going to say, hypothetically, the step-up in basis goes away. We're just talking about that, right? I hold a lot of other properties still that I don't want to sell. I want to pass them on to the kids. Mentally, the only way I think I'm going to get there so they don't get whacked on that or cut in half is to have a large death benefit to cover those that removal of the step up in basis. Can the deferred sales trust be used to say buy a whole life insurance product with a large death benefit to offset that future step up in basis removal?
Absolutely. We call that triple arbitrage, right? So most yeah. So think about this, right? Jake, what you're asking here is typically people do some estate planning. What they do is they do the large death benefit, right, which is tax-free, and they buy these huge premiums. They put the money in there, and it costs them a lot of money. And you can still do that, by the way. And But what we're saying is do that, but sell these other assets that perhaps aren't producing cash flow. Like think of the cryptocurrency guy, right? This guy lives in East Bay. He and his wife have 2 kids. And this means the world to them. They can sell this $12 million that's out in outer space. They can put it into cash flow producing real estate, or they can just take the funds from the trust slowly, pay taxes, of course, as they receive it, but they can use that to fund a huge life insurance policy. Okay, which is amazing, right? And as well, the other thing is you can move it outside your taxable estate. So you could do it 2 ways, Jake. You could actually
He's
just
put it in an islet.
Yeah, so that's kind of part of the way we do what we do, right? With the deferred sales trust, it's called a deferred sales trust plus. It's extra proprietary, but essentially what's happening is the outcome is sell. You don't even need life insurance with us per se, because you can move it outside the taxable estate. So we're already out, but you could, as part of the triple arbitrage, now you've deferred the tax. You're outside the taxable estate. Then you can also use that to buy a life insurance policy to get you above and beyond that, okay? So it's a way to create wealth. So we're just going to give you your cake and let you eat it too, if that makes sense.
So outline that program, which you just described, for folks that may be driving and they're saying, what the hell did they just say?
Okay, so realize exactly, again, what the deferred sales trust is. You are selling something in exchange.
You're selling a multifamily property, because that's what our folks do, right?
Yeah, we'll just do an actual deal. We just did.
Yeah.
We just closed one for $7.9 million deal. Actually, we used the one in Tennessee. You guys, okay? We actually did in Alabama. He sold a $2.6 million business. Okay, this guy's in his 40s, very successful. He wanted to get out of the marketing business. Okay, but he wanted to get into the real estate game, building multifamily. So he sold a $2.6 million business. Deferred about $600,000 of tax, and now he's building, actually, in Tennessee. I want to show you guys this deal, okay, after this deal. It's off market right now. It's 70 units, okay? He's building from the ground up if you guys are buying new construction. And all tax deferred. He's using the money from the trust that he would have paid in tax to build ground up development. Now he's going to sell that asset and roll it into the trust as well, okay? And all tax deferred. Now, what did he do? Well, he carried back paper. Right? Instead of taking that $2.6 million and paying the tax, he said, you know what? I'm going to loan to the trust the $2.6 million, 100% financing. And now I'm in a deferral state.
What's the trust paying him?
Typically around 8% compounding over any 10-year period of time, not guaranteed. Now, he's actually not taking any payments right now. This is important. Because his income is so high, guys, the deferred sales trust is like the Netflix, because you don't have to take income. In other words, his income is very high right now. And he goes, I don't need any income from that trust, Brett. Can you let it just compound like a 401k or an IRA? We said, absolutely. When would you like payments? He's like, well, let's just start at like 4 or 5 years. Okay, we'll start in 4 or 5 years. And in the meantime, it's still compounding. It's still building, right? That 8% is still compounding, still building. And then he can take it at a later date, perhaps when his income's lower, or perhaps when it makes sense for him, okay? So he's carried back to 2.6. It's compounding at 8%. Now, we got to go make that. We can't guarantee that. We got to go make those investments, right? But in the meantime, he's building more wealth, and then he's going to pay tax as he receives payments. Interest payments will be ordinary income. If he dips into principal, he'll pay capital gains tax. But let's say he did a cost segregation study on that new 70 units that he built. Let's say he was able to produce $1.5 million of loss. Well, could he pull $1.5 million from the trust, Brett? Yeah.
On demand, like that, lickety split, sign on the dotted line, get it tomorrow?
So we need to schedule the payments. This is important. Okay, so we need to.
It's not a debit card, but it's close.
Yeah, right. So like that's the part where we're going to work as a team, and there's got to be some level of what's called not unilateral control. But definitely secured lender signing control, where we're going to schedule the payments in a given year, okay, or a given time. So that's the part where we're like planners, guys. We're going to help you not step on a landmine, and we're going to stay within the rules that the IRS has laid out for us.
So what's the time frame? If I know, like in 60 days, I got to utilize the funds, is that available?
Yeah, the next day. So we just did another deal for a multifamily syndicator, a $20 million asset they sold in Vegas. And they were 2 GPs, and they both put it into their own deferred sales trust. The rest of the LPs paid theirs. But their goal was to
Which you can't do in a 1031, by the way, unless everyone rolls with. Very important to note, right?
Exactly. So that's why the 1031.
He's not paying me, folks. I'm just saying.
No, but once you get it, Jake and Gino, it'll change the lives of a lot of people who are listening to this podcast, okay? Because in a traditional blockbuster 1031 shotgun wedding, everyone has to go. The whole entity must move, right? And you could try to do drop and swaps and some other things, but oftentimes the syndicators who meet with us, like Ashcroft Capital or Passive Income Investing.com or Lane Kawoko, who are all partners with us, Kevin Bupp, these guys, they go, we don't accept 1031. It's too complicated. It's a mess, right? And we also don't 1031 on the way out unless they get everyone agreeing. So this is the part where the Deferred Sales Trust is Netflix, because the GPs or even the LPs could have their own too if they're big enough on $1 million. They can go into their own Deferred Sales Trust, not commingled. It's completely separate. The next day, up to 80%, let's just say they each had $1 million in there, can go to their next LLC deal, syndication, the next day. We got to keep some liquidity, guys. We can't put 100% in there. That other 20% will be in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, investment grade securities, okay? Which you go, oh, I'm not excited about. Well, yeah, but we don't want to put all of it into one deal and not have the liquidity for the trust, because it is a business trust and we got to maintain some liquidity. But yeah, the next day is the answer, Jake.
Got it. Man, Gino, we got some things to chew on right now, huh?
I'm confused. I got to go back and listen to this show again. I'm not gonna lie to you, Jake. Jake's a smart guy.
No, the important thing is though, like if you're a GP on a syndicated deal and you got 40 investors and you just made a boatload of money, this is an option. 1031 is not. I'm just telling you guys. Call me, whatever. 1031 is not going to be an option. It's going to be too much getting everyone to roll with you. If you got a couple guys, maybe, right? But I think that many not happening. All right, so how should property owners prepare for, future higher capital gains? Is there anything else we should be doing?
Besides having a plan with the Deferred Sales Trust, right? You could go to your legislator and try to get Biden not to get rid of the 1031 or limit it or the stepped up basis. I mean,
don't talk about March on Washington these days. That's a touchy subject.
I know, guys. Like, honestly, like, A, have a plan, right?
Yeah.
I mean, B, realize it's also an opportunity, guys, right? Because you have either investors, your LPs now, they have other assets they want to sell and they want to invest with you, but they don't have a 1031 option, a primary home, cryptocurrency, business. And now they do with the Deferred Sales Trust, right? They can sell, so realize that when this tax goes up, if it goes up, it's just more pain for people to either not sell, and if they can't sell, guess what? They can't sell, pay the tax, and show up and invest in your place. Or you say, wow, now I have, if I want to make you a believer, guys. I want all of you guys to be a believer. Now I can Deferred Sales Trust, and then they can roll into my deal, right? So we're not in the business, the way I put it here, Jake and Gino, we're not in the business of buying real estate. I'm not even in the business of capital gains tax deferral.
Right.
We're in the business of solving people's problems, right? And helping to provide life change and transformation. That's what we're in the business of doing. So the answer is not to complain or to be upset about it. The answer is just to find opportunities to be of service and of
no
value
pitchforks,
to others.
Gino. He's saying just get smarter.
Get smarter, baby. Figure it out. What's that Saturday Night Live skit when everything was falling apart in 2008, and the guy gets in there and goes, just fix it, right? He just starts yelling at him, fix it. Yeah, so just figure out a way to do things and get educated, right? We have a bunch of free content. At one point, you guys didn't know about a 1031, right? When you first started 20 years ago or 15 years ago, and then somebody showed you, right? And then you got it, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can change people's lives with this thing. Well, that's what we want to be with the Deferred Sales Trust.
Depression, recession, COVID, higher taxes. One solution here. Make more money. Okay? Make more money and funnel it through this guy. All right? That's what we're doing here. So, all right, we're gonna wrap here soon. What project are you excited about right now? Anything you guys got cooking that we need to know about? Yeah, we're on a mission to train and coach 100,000 business professionals, commercial real estate syndicators, financial advisors, operators. We want to make this a household name. We're trying to work a deal out with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, and we got his hands in everything. These Shark Tank guys, man.
Yeah, we're working a marketing deal right now where we've hired Seth Green with market domination to help to just make it more mainstream. And the biggest thing is just getting out of my own way, right? As entrepreneurs, we got to hire the who, not be the how. So I'm just focused on just looking for amazing partners to educate more people and empower each high net worth individual listening to this content, right? So they can go and preserve more wealth.
Gino, he's scaling the business right now. Okay. So we need a tip from him. What is a tip that you've learned in the last two years that's helped you guys scale the business?
Yeah, I mean, hiring more virtual assistants and giving them a role, giving them a goal, and getting out of the way, right? And just, giving them information, giving them the confidence to make decisions. I recently attended a workshop called Clockwork, Mike McAllowitz, and they're coaching me on how to get out of my own way, right? And how to delegate properly, right? And how to not make decisions on everything, right? And how to empower people. And so it's, hi, my name is Brett. I'm a controlaholic, right? And so I've got to get out of my own way, and I've got to empower people. And so, delegate, hire. If you don't have a virtual assistants, I mean, there's a whole thing.
Delegate, dictate, and disappear.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. And then, create content. Right now, YouTube and I podcast and everything else. People want to be able to consume content, and so not anything you don't know, but get on a video. The first time I got on a video was about 2 years ago, and it was painful, guys. Parable lighting. I didn't want to be on it. I'm just like gritting my teeth. And
you're shooting it with your phone sideways, and I got you.
We deleted all those bad videos, but just get out of your own way, right? And that's what I really want to say. Like, it's not about you. Like, I try to make it about me. Make it about using the gifts and talents you've been given. Go make a difference in the world, and get over your fear of whatever that might be, right? What's it? The cave you fear to enter, holds the treasure that you seek, right? So go enter that, fearful cave, that really challenging thing. And there's the treasure you seek, if that makes sense.
Gino, I want to see how good the brain's working right now. What's the chemistry quote on hiring from the Chick-fil-A book?
It is character.
Yeah.
Chemistry and competency.
Woo! G-Dad adding value today.
And
I love
it's
it.
hard because you know why? You have to really look at the person's character before anything else. And obviously you want chemistry. You want to be able to gel with your team. But if they're not a person, well, obviously you need to be a person of character. That goes without saying. We're all men of character on the show. Now, you need to be that person of character. You need to have a personality ethic. You need to be on and be a little flashy, be a little showy. But at the same time, if you're not coming from a place of character, none of it's going to work. It's going to implode sooner or later, right? Then you need to be competent. You need to know what you're doing in your craft. And you need to be getting better and honing those skills. And then ultimately, you want to be able to have what Jake and I like to call the beer test. Can you go out and have a beer with this person? Can you go out and hang out and enjoy their company? You don't have to agree on everything. You can be liberal, you can be conservative, you can argue, but there has to be some kind of chemistry there where you at least have mutual respect for each other. You can talk. And that's one thing that Jake and I have been able to do over the last couple of years is really select amazing team members, bring them on, and they're a lot smarter than we are. They handle it. We might have the vision, but they're on there and they just believe in what we're doing.
G-Dad, bringing the value. All right, Brett, give us a book reco.
Maybe one that you guys don't know about. Maybe you do. It's Jim Rohn. You definitely know about Jim Rohn. But it's called The Seasons of Life, right? And it's one of those books. It's an older book, but it's one of those books that's a pretty short read, and it's something you can pick up and reread, right? And so, like anything, we're always going through seasons in our life, and it could be spring, summer, winter, fall, and either in finances, in our health, with our family, with challenges, with our business, and it's recognizing when you're in those seasons what you can be doing, right? There's always something you can be doing, and there's another way to consider it. So it's an amazing book. Highly recommend it. The Seasons of Life, Jim Rohn.
Gino's a big fan. All right. Best way for the listeners to get a hold of you and get those taxes out of the way, because they don't want to be in the late seasons of their life worrying about this crap.
Yeah, escape feeling trapped by capital gains tax jail, right? You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You can also search that on YouTube, and we also have on iTunes. We have a podcast, and I had the pleasure of having Gino on, and hopefully having Jake on here soon, where we talk about real estate, we talk about taxes, we talk about a lot of things. And if you're a professional or commercial real estate syndicator or operator or business broker, luxury realtor, you can go to experttaxsecrets.com. That's experttaxsecrets.com, where you can actually learn how to use the Deferred Sales Trust, right? Again, I didn't know anything 10 years ago. And I'm passionate about educating folks and being a guide to help them. We have a whole coaching program to get folks to be able to add value to their clients and grow their business.
Got
some ideas, Take us home here. What do you think?
So you have a young Brett back in the 1980s, swinging a hammer, doing 10-inch toilet and some trash. Goes to work for Marcus. His timing's not the best, though, Jake. He hits it around 2005, and all of a sudden the crash is there. And then he says to himself, I like cheesecake. Maybe I'll go work for Cheesecake Factory. But I'm going to work for 2 years, Mr. Boss. Don't fire me. During the day, I'm cold calling, ripping people up. And at nighttime, I'm serving cheesecake. And you push through it, right? When you have a young child, at home, you have a wife, you've got to make it happen, right? As Jake just alluded to, he showed me a video by Art Williams today. Never heard of it. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. That's what it's all about. The message hasn't changed in 30 years.
That's right.
From the 1980s till now. And you'll learn something. You're going to be a doubter. What's this deferred sales trust? Never heard of this crap. This crap ain't going to work. Most people say that. And most people sit on the sidelines and they don't learn. And Brett's here to take you to the promised land. Because you know what? Mr. Biden's raised those taxes, not because he wants to. It's because he has to, because it's just logical. We're all business people out there. You know what? Let's learn how to defer taxes, because really taxes are all about stimulating behavior, right? So we figure out how we can shelter taxes, how we can do it the right way. And how do you do it the right way? By educating yourself, by creating the plan that Brett talked about, and by getting in touch with professionals, right? If it makes you money, it costs you nothing. Just remember that. Peace out, Jake.
Gino.
That's all I got.
Gino dropping the mic. He's out of here, Brett. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I learned a ton, and you are the man. Guys, we'll see you later.
Thanks, Brett.
Thanks, guys.